Duke, what's with the hair? You got aspirin?
You should feel better momentarily, and your memory will slowly return.
Duke, what's with the hair?
The specific
Question. What kind of bear is best?
That's a ridiculous question.
False. Black bear. Fact. Bears eat beets.
Oh.
Bears. Beets. Battlestar Galactica.
Bears do not...
Yeah, Bob. You remember Bob, the guy that's gonna launch a nuclear attack? You got any more abuse you want to hurl my way? Or are you ready to go in here and take care of Bob?
What do you propose, Bob?
When in doubt, C4.
Well, howdy, campers. Your friendly neighborhood penguin Bob here. And I'm already having technical issues this evening. Shocker, right? Penguin having technical issues. What's new? Let me get back to... Okay. So, let me say hi to, hey, Tracy and RPG both. I see you guys there. I am actually streaming tonight on YouTube and my Rumble channel. So I should have Rumble chat as well as YouTube chat up on the same screen. So, oh look, it's Bob. Hiya, Bob. All right. Well, we got several things we want to talk about here. Mainly one large one we're going to talk about later. because it's something that's very dear and near to me. But first, before I talk into that, I want to get into that shocker. This should be no news to anybody new, but Disney is being sued again. So let's get into it, shall we? Okay. All right. Here's an article I found. Actually, there's been several. You can actually just Google it. But basically, it's stating that Disney hit with federal civil rights complaint over DEI, that's diversity, inclusion stuff, wokeness, basically, and alleges that discrimination against white men, Christians, and Jews. And I don't know if you remember or not, but a couple of Piglet Thoughts back, I was going over some of the things from Chris Gore and Film Threat that he had some anonymous letters from some writers in the Writers Association Guild, and they were talking about this mantra that's going on right now in Hollywood, especially like in Disney, is that if you are pale and male, you're stale. That's basically what that means, is that it's, if you fall into that category of a white man, or I guess in this case Christians and Jews as well, you will be left out in the cold when it comes to working in that industry. Well, Disney is finally getting hit with this. And it's good because it's the thing that they've been discriminating against everybody else with. And now it's funny how this has kind of come back to hit them on the rear end. It says right here, this came out on February 15th. The Walt Disney Company has been hit with a federal civil rights complaint alleging the company's DEI policies are unlawful and discriminate against white American men, Christians, and Jews. American First Legal filed the complaint against Disney on Wednesday. The group cited publicly available documents published on Disney's official website, as well as leaked internal documents showing how executives have made diversity, equity, and inclusion a central part of Disney's hiring practice. It is sad and tragic that a company whose name was once synonymous with wholesome and charming childhood fantasies is now dedicated to spreading diversity, bigotry, and racism. The R word there. That's exactly what it is. They're being charged for. These aren't my words. These are the words of this article, but it's also the words of what the lawsuit is coming up against them from the federal government. Federal civil rights. Somebody has lodged a complaint. It says right here, we urge Disney to cease and desist its unlawful destructive conduct at once, said Stephen Miller, president of the America First Legal and former Trump administration official. At the heart of America's First Legal argument is that Disney has implemented de facto quotas in its hiring. And we've already seen that in the past with some of the things we've talked about here on this channel. That Disney is purposely picking people that know nothing about the content, that are 100% behind Disney's political agenda here of diversity and inclusion and identity politics and all that kind of stuff. These quotas are often disguised as it's funny it says that actually. The quotas that Disney's doing right now are disguised as diversity and inclusion policies. But in some cases, Disney has publicly listed actual percentages when it comes to hiring for its productions. And we even just saw that the last couple weeks, once again brought up the subject of Gina Carano and how she was summarily fired from Disney and Lucasfilm simply because she didn't agree with their narrative, with their agenda, with their politics. She didn't fall in line with it, so they decided to fire her publicly. No phone call, no nothing. They just kind of said, you're gone, and they did that through Twitter. That's really sad. Anyway, among the published quotas is the goal that 50% of Disney's TV series directors must come from underrepresented groups. It is patently unlawful to consider racial, ethnic, and potato-based or God-based or Christian-based characteristics in hiring, training, or I guess I could also say, I don't know what that word is. That's my filter kicking in. It just says potato-based. Anyway, it's unlawful to hire people for training, hiring, compensation, and promotion based off their race, ethnic, and I'm guessing sexual orientation probably, but also religious affiliation probably. It's funny. The thing that they claim that all of us that are fighting against them in the pop culture war and fighting against and standing up against this woke ideology, they accuse us of the very thing that they're doing themselves. I just find that interesting. The complaint also cites a leaked internal Disney document that was published by Elon Musk on X. We actually went over this the other day. I brought this up about the Disney General Entertainment Content Inclusion Standards, that they basically said that like for on-screen representation, creative leadership, below the line, as well as industry access and career development, all this cites all the different things that Disney is using as their benchmark for who they're going to hire and who they're not going to hire. If you're curious, that's posted up on Elon Musk's Twitter feed, so you can also get to it from this article. Anyway, I thought it would be interesting also to hear what one of my favorite YouTubers in the pop culture war, Nerdrotic, Gary, and I looked up on Nerdrotic Daily. Once again, I got all the links for all the videos and articles that I'm talking about in tonight's podcast down in the description. And I'm also using my profanity filter. So I have closed captioning on because I don't like to listen to the profanity. I'm a penguin. I got sensitive ears. Anyway. I got sensitive ears when it comes to profanity and like using God's name in vain and stuff. But when it comes to actually, like other terms and so forth, I tend to be like a duck and just let it roll down my back. Or I slip, slide away on the ice away from it. That's another thing to do. Us penguins are good at getting away. Anyway, so we got about a 7-minute video here from Nerdrotic. So let's watch what this is. It's on Disney Suit Again, the most racist place on earth.
Wow, we did Black Panther. How great.
Oh, this is actually one of the things that was mentioned in that article about Bob Iger and his leaked statements of stuff on this. Anyway. This is just so self-grandizing. It's amazing. They think they're the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Wow, we did Black Panther. How great are we?
I saved your ass, so show a little appreciation, maybe. Besides, I told you never to go nowhere without me.
Nerdrotic.com.
Disney's being sued again. This is a federal
This is a federal Civil
Okay.
Rights Act complaint brought from America First Legal, alleging that, well, I mean, it's not really alleged. We know this is happening. It's been happening in Hollywood. It's been happening in Disney for forever. But basically saying they're discriminating against white men because of a lot of the diversity requirements. The thing that
And
Elon
that's that
tweeted out that
document
he was
that's that document I was just showing up on Elon Musk's tweet.
a confidential source emailed me this, and like we've seen that exact chart multiple times on Disney's own website. That basically says not just in front of the camera but behind the camera. These are the requirements to
This
get
thing is
something done
popping
at
up like
Disney. You have to
everywhere.
have
I
this
mean,
many
Disney
black
has
people,
been
this many
outed.
minorities, blah blah blah, and they're actually getting a civil rights act complaint against them because, spoiler alert, you can't actually do that. It's illegal.
Yeah.
If they were to do that and essentially exclude a bunch of qualified black people because we just want more white people here at our company, they'd get annihilated for it.
Yes, they would.
But for years, they've been getting away with doing that because it's, white men for the most part who are getting the short end of the stick.
Yeah, when you invert things and it sounds racist, guess what? It's because the other way around is racist.
Yep. All these restrictions are you white and straight? That saves so much time. Let's drop the bullshit and just admit that what people think and what people in Hollywood and in California and a lot of people think is you can't be racist to white people.
Yeah.
Well, again, Bob Iger's leaked video that came out last week, I think that kind of puts everything in perspective. Like, of all the complaining you want to do about Disney and all the stuff about their content, that 2-minute video, it basically brings it all together. It's not political to talk about January 6th, according to Bob Iger. And how great are we because we did Black Panther?
I know.
Bob Iger, that's literally what he said.
The importance of that is we all knew it, right?
Grandizing.
But it's totally different to hear it from the horse's mouth or the rat's mouth. And as Disparu pointed out in his response tweet to that is they come from this position that that the morality, that the politics are settled. There's nothing to argue with. We're right and you're wrong on everything. And that is dangerous. It's scary. That's where we're fighting in this country throughout every corporation. At no time has the media, corporations, and our government been so lockstep on so many things.
And that is fascism.
Yes,
and
it is.
Also, let's translate what he means when he says that. When he is basically playing so black and white. We're right, you're wrong. He's saying we're good, you're evil. All right.
Yes.
We're the good.
It's kind of amazing to me that there is a book out there that kind of predicted the way this would be in the last times. That there would be people out there doing evil and calling it good, and people doing good and calling it evil. Actually, I think that last part may not be there. I don't know. I'm a penguin. I forget things. Nice and shiny. Nevertheless, the point is, what Shad's saying right here about this is that it's extremely right. Disney thinks what they're doing, they think they had the moral high ground. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi did with Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. And in actuality, they're really Anakin. They're not Obi-Wan Kenobi. Well, that's a nice Star Wars metaphor there. There you go. That one's free. Take it home with you. Put it in your pocket. Put it underneath your pillow, and maybe the Star Wars Tooth Fairy will come and give you good Star Wars. Not in this day and age. Anyway.
Good guys, you're the bad guys. They hate the opposing side. Disney has picked the side that they're going with, and it's shocking how unironically evil they're being while pretending that they're so good. That's what Elon was calling out. It's like, sick of people who are doing evil who are pretending to be good.
That is classic. The classic definition of gaslighting. You treat your position, your idea, as if were above conversation. It's above debate. That's it. That's gaslighting.
No, there's no reason to debate. That's when it starts to dehumanize the other side.
Yes.
And they're so wrong, they're not even worth talking to. It's great that Disney's getting sued from every side at this point, but like, how successful could this be?
I don't know. It's tough because everybody does this.
Yes.
Every corporation, all of Hollywood, it's all over right now. So there's even benefits from some people for doing things like this. So I don't know. More so than anything, I just think it's more bad PR, which is always a good thing, a funny thing to watch Bob Iger have to suffer through right now. And really, it's stemming from Elon Musk tweeting out something that wasn't even like confidential.
I know.
Right? They were very open about that. We saw that chart 2 or 3 years ago or something. But that's really what it's stemming from.
Yeah, it signal boosted it and made a lot of people who try to either pretend it's not happening or convince, like exposing it. There's a lot of normie people who actually are not aware of how bad the rot has gotten.
Well, I don't know how it's going to end, but like I said, I think there's going to be more lawsuits we're going to see popping up this year because this is literally everywhere. And I think that this is the final crack for the dam at this point. Does it have any legs? I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on the court. If this is in California.
I mean, they're literally fighting the system.
Complaint,
yeah, it's a federal complaint, and I think it would probably work more in California where they have finagled the laws so much in the woke's favor that it could actually be used against them now. We'll see if that happens because of activist judges and the way California is.
Yeah.
It's a super.
Yeah, California has. There was a law tuber, Legal Mindset, was talking about this, that the law, that he wouldn't want to even work in California as a lawyer because the laws change practically weekly. And there are so many laws on the books that are trying to protect this woke ideology and stuff that in some respects, like what Gary was saying here, they could actually be turned around and turned against them to work against them, which that's irony for you. Here they are trying to push their ideology and make everybody believe it and even try to get the law on their side. And in the process, they're making it to where they could fall under the same umbrella that they are trying to cancel everybody else with. It's and now they're getting bit. You play with the cobra, you play with a snake, you play with a lion or whatever metaphor you want to throw in there. You play with fire, you're going to get burnt eventually. And this is exactly what they're doing.
That's the issue.
It's a super party, you know.
It's a complaint filed in violation of the Civil Rights Act, which is a little bit different than I think in Gina's lawsuit. I'm not a lawyer.
Crazies over there.
Legal
and say,
analysis
get with the program, people.
Right? But what I will say, in the case of, say, Gina's thing, the question is, can she win or not? That's what a lot of people are asking, which I think is going to be tough. But if she can just get past the initial, like it gets dismissed because of whatever reason, and they start
California
to get to
is a mess.
That could be so bad that Disney doesn't want that. So Disney could go out of their way to make sure it doesn't reach that point. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's not about whether you can win or not. It's about how bad you can make it.
And it's
for the
also
other party.
Ryan, what would be so bad that they would find in Discovery, though?
So imagine if they found out all the emails between people, all these transgender that are working there that were trying to put her through the struggle session. If they can find out who exactly it was that decided to put.
Yeah, I think this is really kind of cool that this whole thing with Gina Carano, which we talked about a while back, if it gets to the point to where it goes to trial and they have to give, basically they have to go through discovery. In other words, they have to be able to give access to like all their emails and documents in the company and so forth. It could really, really damage Disney, I think. Because do I believe for 1 second that Disney has done things above board? Oh, no, never. I mean, there's bound to be people out there, starting with good old Potato Kennedy on down, that have like sent emails and so forth and memorandums and internal memos saying, okay, this person needs to go through this particular type training, or because remember we talked about they got this Jedi training and stuff that all the writers have to go through with Hollywood. That's just not just Disney; that's Hollywood itself. So I guarantee you, Disney's following all of that. Because out of most of the companies that are in Hollywood right now, Disney is the wokest, in my opinion. They're the ones that are the far leftist leaning, so much so they've almost spanned the globe and come back to the right side without being right. If you want to talk about the way the political leaning is. I I hate talking about politics, but this stuff's it's permeating everything. The woke ideology is a political agenda. It's almost a religion, and Disney is trying to shove it down everyone's throat. And I'm loving it and seeing it that they're finally getting their hand caught in the cookie jar and getting slapped to stop this stuff. I would love to see Discovery happen. Personally, I don't think Disney Lucasfilm is going to let it go that far. They'll probably try to settle with Gina or something. And I don't know. It's totally, I can't tell tell Gina what to do, or Elon Musk, who's backing this, what to do. But it'd almost be worth it not to settle. Just so all this stuff can be brought to light. But, you know, if they come across something that's a good deal for Gina, then go for it. She needs to take care of herself more so than this. But I think it's cool that not only now is Gina doing this, but also somebody, the America First Legal has filed a civil lawsuit against them, a federal civil lawsuit. So they're in deep water. Disney is.
Put out that statement about Gina to begin with when they let her go. Like, there's so much internal discussions between people that work there about their opinions on Gina Carano. Like, there's a lot of shit that they might not want out.
These lawyers aren't scrubs, right? They're Elon's lawyers. So these are top tier lawyers who can go toe to toe, if not are better than Disney's lawyers.
I would love to see the list of specific names who are going to be in with Gina Carano in that like 50-person Zoom call full of 105 different pronouns. Like, I imagine. Like, I want to know who the fuck those people are.
Rumor was Leslie Headland was going to be one of them.
Leslie Headland's one of the people that donated to that GoFundMe, which was like an anti-Gina, pro-trans GoFundMe thing.
Oh, I can't wait for her show to come out. We get it summer 2024.
Not
I'm
a nice
looking forward
person.
to that one.
I can't believe that something that was just a sizzle reel are actually coming out.
It's coming. The whole thing's coming out. Yeah, weird.
And she has leveled up on the insults. It used to be too ugly to be assaulted. Now Leslie Headland, too ugly for Vincent McMahon to shit on.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's
I think Vince has high standards, though.
Yeah,
I know. Well, that's true.
I mean, the last that he shot on was pretty fit. You know.
Nerdrotic.com. Please subscribe.
Hey, if you like what we do here at Nerdrotic Daily, please like, share, and subscribe.
I always allow the plugs.
YouTuber as well. I'm sure they would appreciate it as much as I do.
Yeah. Okay. So, anyway, that's to bring you up to speed on what's going on. That's all I really kind of know right now. I'm going to maybe comb later to see if I can't find some more, like maybe some leaked or actually public record documents pertaining to this civil lawsuit, just like I found the ones with Gina Carano. And if I find them, then I will either make a video or present them next time during Penguin Thoughts. Anyway, the next subject I want to talk about, and the last subject we're going to talk about, because I want to spend the rest of the time kind of talking about this, because it's something very near and dear to my heart, and I feel like it's something else that very well could be destroyed. On March 20th, there is a Disney Plus show that's coming out called the X-Men 97. Now, if you're not familiar with, back in 1992 to 1997, it's 5 seasons, 5 years. And you can actually go watch that series up on Disney Plus right now. The X-Men 97 animated series was running on television. And I used to watch it like crazy. I loved it. It was also very comic book accurate to what's in the actual comics itself. And I just got to, there's a couple days ago, there was a trailer for the new series that's supposed to be picking up at the end of season 5. And Disney is supposed to be creating a new series picking up where that left off. where that season ended at the end of season 5. Anyway, here's an article right here talks about it. We're going to talk a little bit more about this because I've got my concerns about this new series that's coming up. I may just watch only the old series. I'll probably watch at least the first episode or maybe the first couple episodes to see if it actually goes the direction I think it's going to. I mean, something coming out from Disney, I've said it on this channel. They're woke. Their content's going to be 100% woke every day of the week. You're not going to get absolutely good stuff out of this. The exception would be if they have used some type of third party involved in creating the content and they just left their hands off of it, which doesn't seem to be what Disney likes doing. And this X-Men 97 animated series is supposedly not connected to the MCU, but it goes back to the actual comic book run, which I'm hoping that they don't ruin. Anyway, this article says the X-Men 97 trailer takes us back to a time when X-Men was the biggest comic on Earth. I love the smell of newsstand comics in the morning. Yes. Growing up, there's probably no better feeling than getting to go to the shop and see which X-Men comics had ended up on the shelf. Just so you know, if you didn't realize, X-Men have been in the comic book since 1963, when the very first edition came out. And I can show you what that looks like. This right here is it's like the cover and the first page of the X-Men very first issue back in 1963. Cost a whopping 12 cents. Woohoo! Breaking the bank there, baby. But nevertheless, we'll get to hear a little bit more about this particular thing in a little bit. But right now, I want to talk about the trailer that came out and read the rest of this article. Then we're going to actually watch the new trailer together. And I've got some things that I have wrong with. If the series turns out like I think it's going to, I have some things to say about it. Yeah, big spenders. Yeah, exactly. Growing up, there's probably no better feeling than... Oh, wait a minute. I already read that part. This was the early 90s before the comics industry committed to the direct market, and you could still buy a new issue as easily as grabbing a soda and your favorite candy bar. If you were a child in the 80s or 90s, it's likely that your first comic was one featuring the X-Men or one of the Mutant team's rosters. Most likely Wolverine, seeing as he guest starred in dozens of series at the height of his popularity. Yeah, Wolverine's all over the place. And rightfully so. He's one of the most popular Marvel characters of all time. The first X-Men 97 trailer, which hit last week, this is the new series that's coming out, takes us back to that heyday with a preview steeped in 80s and 90s X lore and vibe. It looks similar, but yet it doesn't. By the titular year of 97, the comics industry was collapsing after the fame, boom, and bust of that era. Yeah, the comic books industry is pretty much dead. But the new trailer harks back to earlier days for the X-Men when the comic was the big selling series on the planet. And it leans into the Chris Claremont era of storytelling that made the X-Men the most popular heroes on shelves. Just check out, and this is a link to another article on IGN. It's referring to the Uncanny X-Men episode 200. But the trailer also knows its audience. Many of them are kids whose first comic purchase was X-Men #1 by Claremont and Jim Lee. That's the one I just got through showing you. Not this one. That's this right here. This is X-Men issue number 1 of the very first comic book run by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Anyway, all that pocket money we spent on that one played a part in making it the best-selling comic issue of all time, and 8 million copies sold. A prestigious record it still holds today. That first issue. If you found a one that was in mint condition, guarantee it'd be worth a pretty penny today. Not no 12 cents. It's no mystery that the original run of X-Men, the anime series, of which X-Men 97 is the long-delayed follow-up, used the 1991 Claremont Lee relaunch as its template. Everything from costume design, for the most part, they made it look very much like what they did in the 1990s series. And those from action figures and so forth. That's Cyclops. That's Jean Grey. And we're going to watch the actual trailer here in a second. Actually, I think that's all I'm going to read about this. Let's go ahead and dive into to watching the episode here. Oops. All right. And I may have to mute this during the actual, because the new trailer does have the X-Men animated theme song to it, which is that one. If you've never heard it, it's da-da-da-da-da, 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 da-da, da-da-da-da-da, 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 da-da. It's an iconic theme song. It really is. Anyway, let's go ahead and watch this.
Watch the series finale of X-Men next Saturday morning. Check your local listings.
I'm grateful to.
I like how they kind of like, this is a, old school TV. They've got an action figure sitting right there, the Uncanny X-Men by Stan Lee. This is the way Professor X used to look. This is actually the recap of the last episode in season 5 of the 1997 series.
Have the chance to say goodbye.
See, look how Beast looks, how Wolverine looks. We're going to see Hugh Jackman in the Deadpool movie coming out in this, in basically his X-Men outfit. That's Jubilee right there.
I am proud.
Cyclops, Jean Grey,
of you all.
And Morph.
My X-Men.
Fate lies in our hands.
There you go. Yes. Long before Patrick Stewart. I know a lot of people, since the live action came out, they start thinking of Professor X and think of Patrick Stewart. For me, this is the Professor X I think of. And when I think of Magneto. And the reason for that is because I read some of these comics and so forth. To me, this animated show kind of brought the printed page into what we would consider live action today. But, granted, it's animated. But to me, it just kind of like brought the pages alive. It was just amazing that I could see some of my Marvel heroes on TV. I used to record these on VCR. That tells you how old this stuff is. Anyway.
Hands now.
And now we're going to transition into what the new series is supposed to look like. Which I agree they did try to make it look some similar to the original series, but there's some changes that I don't care for. Like, for example, one of them real quick here. Look at Storm. Storm's got a full head of hair. You watch them with your kids, cool. So you know what ones I'm talking about. Yeah, 1992 to 1997. There's 5 seasons of it, and like I said, you can go watch it on Disney Plus. Matter of fact, before I streamed this, before I went live tonight, I watched the first 2 episodes, and I'll probably, after I get through streaming and Second Life, I will also probably watch some more of this show because I love this show that much. I haven't watched it in years. I need to get back into it. And the new series is picking up on March 20th, so, give me some time to binge it also that I can be caught up with the story. So I can see just how bad they butcher it. I'm hoping not, but prayer for the worst, hope for the best. As always.
In our hands now. Now.
We have to stay vigilant.
Oh. Here's one of the first clues that makes me think that this show is going to be woke. This is a Daily Bugle. And look right here. They have a mutant fashion show. Do what? Since when has this ever been a thing in the comics? A fashion show.
Have to stay vigilant.
Oh, and one other small detail. Take a look at this.
We have.
They misspelled Spider-Man. Where's the hyphen? They can't even spell Spider-Man correctly. And this is the Daily Bugle. The Daily Bugle with J. Jonah Jameson would not have gotten that wrong. It's also the same place that Peter Parker, a.k.a. Spider-Man, works at. It's not Miles Morales, because Miles Morales is Miles Morales. Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And he would know that there's a hyphen in the name. Him and J. Jonah Jameson would both know that. Yep. So, and this is from Disney, from the Marvel animation. Details matter. They really do. Because if one little tiny geeky penguin like me can notice this, then how many other people are going to notice this? And may even notice more than this little penguin does.
Have to stay vigilant. The professor entrusted us with his dream.
No.
Yeah, exactly. Peter Parker would know how to spell his alter ego's name. Because I don't know how many times you saw in the comics, and even like when Tobey Maguire in the live-action Spider-Man arguing with J. Jonah Jameson about who Spider-Man was and so forth. I mean, he's going to go to bat for his alter ego. He really is. Anyway. And if you didn't notice also in this so far, this they were lowering down they were lowering down in the ground.
Us with his dream.
Right there, that's Professor X. Don't mean to be a spoilers, but at the end of season 5, he died.
No matter how dark it is, we must believe in each other.
We get this done by working together as a team.
Jeez, bub. Keep buzzing in my ear.
I muted it because of the theme song. Oh, that just looks... Now that, I will admit, does look cool. That's sparking from his adamantium claws and Gambit riding on his back. By the way, in the animated series, I really liked Gambit. There's just something about him. I mean, I like the Wolverine. Who doesn't like Wolverine? You know, but nevertheless, I like Gambit in this series as well.
To me, my X-Men.
Now, things I want to point out here. Notice how Storm looks different. I'm not sure who that is. That's Bishop. That's Rogue. Gambit. No, Jubilee's not listed here. Where's her yellow coat? I don't see Jubilee. That's Cyclops. Beast looks a little weird in the face here. I'm not sure why. It's like they did him a little different. He's got a little bit darker eyebrows, a little more sinister looking. Which Beast, to me, always kind of had a very intellectual, laid-back look. Like, not one that would, you know, you see him, you're taken back by what he looks like, but you're not necessarily scared of him. He looks like a blue professor type, you know, or a chemist. Oh, you meant you like Gambit and Jubilee? Okay, yeah. Yeah, I really love Gambit. Gambit's kind of cool. I don't know why, but I do. And that's not, I do like the fact that they still kept the X plane the same. There you go, streaming March 20th. So that should be interesting. Like I said, though, just a few minor things in there. The way they redrew some of them, like for example, like I said, with Storm's haircut, it looked like they were trying to make them more modernized, which concerns me. Anytime they make a show more modern, you know what, especially if it's Disney, you know what they're going to do with it. They're going to lean into the woke. They really are. So that's why my title, I call them Wokemen 97, because I'm hoping that it isn't. I hope they don't ruin this show that I love. But I just have a gut feeling, like they have done with everything else, they're going to push their modern day stuff in it, claiming they want to do it for a modern day audience, and that gives them permission to do the woke stuff. And I need to do further research to find out. I don't know, and maybe that's where a couple of these videos I'm going to watch here, we're going to watch together here in a little bit, maybe goes into a little more depth on who maybe is actually writing this. Yeah, Storm's hair looks like a mohawk with a long braid down the back. And I don't know if she's ever really had that look per se. But the thing that concerns me is, regardless if she's had that look in the comics or not, because I can't remember, the fact is, she didn't have that look at the very end of the episode in season 5. Her hair was still long. Unless, of course, they're going to be like jumping forward in this series, like say maybe this is 5 years down the line. I don't know. That'd be the one exception, that maybe if they did a time jump on it. But if it's literally, I mean, everything I've read says it's supposed to be picking up from the very end of season 5. If that's the case, then you really don't have much wiggle room to change the way they look. Unless, of course, like I said, there's a time jump involved. Anyway. So, there is another YouTuber that I watch quite a bit. It's really kind of cool because he goes into some serious depth on comic books. And he made a video on this, and I thought we'd... talking about the new trailer, and I thought we'd watch it. It's about 10 minutes. Called Comics Explained. And once again, he's down in the actual description as well. But he goes into a little more depth on this than what I even noticed.
The trailer for X-Men 97 came out, and people who read Marvel Comics know the very ending of the trailer teased the introduction of the most powerful mutant to ever exist in the history of Marvel Comics. And no, we are not talking about the House of M. Scarlet Witch, because this guy is way beyond that. So let's run over all the mutants who appeared in this outside of the main cast. Kicking things off, we have Morph, who appeared in Exiles #1 in 2001. But Rob, you are...
Yeah, I'm wondering, okay, when I saw that, then this has got to be Morph, and they've already changed the look of Morph. I wondered if that was Morph, but Morph didn't look white and have hair. He was changed a little bit differently in a different series.
Saying to yourself, this does not make sense. Morph originally appeared in X-Men the Animated Series, and because the series are based on the X-Men comics, surely they adapted his character from the comics. That's not true.
Yeah, that's what Morph is supposed to look like. That's what Morph looked like in the animated series that's adopted from the comics. So they've already changed something there already.
Morph debuted in the cartoon show before Morph debuted in the comics. The version of Morph that you see here in X-Men 97 is the actual comic book accurate depiction of Morph, who has no real definitive shape. Instead, Morph has the power of shape-shifting, and it makes Morph a hoss, because not only can Morph take on virtually any form that you can imagine, by way of Morph's shapeshifting, there's invulnerability, a regenerative healing factor, and power granting. In effect, outside of reality warping, Morph can take on any power that anybody else out there has. But continuing on here, we have Leech. Now, Leech is the little green guy that stands...
This is him explaining all the different mutants that he saw in the new trailer.
Standing there with the chick with the eye patch, and while Leech did originally appear in X-Men the Animated Series, he's obscure enough that we can cover him here. But Leech originally appeared in Uncanny X-Men issue number 179 in 1983. And this guy is, depending on who you talk to, the most powerful character in Marvel Comics, but only by way of defense, because Leech does not have any offensive powers. He cannot reality warp, he has no telepathy, telekinesis, none of that stuff. Instead, Leech has the ability to nullify and shut off the powers of anybody in his immediate vicinity, and there is no upper limit here. We saw that in the X-Men comics when Leech shut down the powers of a guy named Absalom Mercator, who had the ability to warp reality. But the woman standing there with Leech with the eye patch, that's Callisto, and she originally appeared in Uncanny X-Men issue number 169 in 1983, and Callisto is kind of a blend between Captain America and Wolverine. No, she does not have adamantium, and no, she does not have claws. Instead, she has the enhanced senses that are usually associated with Wolverine, but she's also got enhanced speed, durability, reflexes, that kind of a thing. I just chose...
Yeah, I totally forgot, but when I watched those first 2 episodes of the anime series tonight, there was a part there to where Wolverine all of a sudden stopped everybody as they were breaking into this facility, and he said, "There's laser beams here." And I said, "How can you tell?" So I can smell the ozone. I'm going, what? I'm going, I knew his senses were extremely heightened, but I didn't remember him being that heightened. That's way cool. That, and also later on, he smelled some guards behind this door because he smelled the gun oil. Now that, completely believable, but the ozone, that just took me back. I'm not saying it's not believable, just, I just didn't realize and remember that Wolverine had that much of a heightened senses, especially his sense of smell.
Wolverine and Captain America as examples because,
Wolverine is awesome.
But moving on to the Daily Bugle newspaper, and in fact, even the telephone poll, on the telephone poll is Marrow. Now, she originally appeared in Cable number 15 in 1994, and she can grow bones from her body, and she can control the density or strength of those bones, and she can use them as projectiles or even as defensive shields. Transitioning to the newspaper, the girl with the antlers is...
Yeah, see, he's explaining this thing that I stopped at earlier. He's explaining who's actually in these pictures, which is wild. I didn't know any of the ones that are in here that are supposedly going to the Mutant fashion show.
Lynn Lee, also known as Nature Girl. She originally appeared in Wolverine and the X-Men Volume 2, issue number 1 in 2014. She can basically manipulate nature, just like you would think she could. Animals, plant life, the weather, albeit not necessarily on the same level as Storm. The girl all the way down in the bottom left-hand corner with what looks like a diamond on her head, that's Blink. She debuted in Uncanny.
Now, did you happen to notice it's girl with an arm around another girl? That's another thing that makes me think, there we go with the woke homosexual identity stuff. I don't know. It is Disney. It's making this Disney Marvel, so not surprised.
The bottom left-hand corner with what looks like a diamond on her head, that's Blink. She debuted in Uncanny X-Men, issue number 317 in 1994, and she's a teleporter with a limited range. Think like just beyond the moon and back. That's about as far as she can go. But then the guy at the very top with his collar popped and what looks like the reddish blonde hair, that's Banshee. He originally appeared in X-Men number 28 in 1966, and in fact, he was also part of the original X-Men the Animated Series cast, but not part of the main cast. But this guy can use his voice for a variety of effects. He can fly, he can give himself shields, he can use hypnotic suggestion, echolocation, but he's also immune to virtually any and all forms of sound that could be used offensively against him. Now,
that's cool that he could use sound. I didn't know about Banshee. That's cool that he could use sound to actually fly and stuff.
The woman with the black garb, that is Dust, and she originally appeared in New X-Men issue number 133 back in 2002. She can convert herself to sand, and when she's in that form, she's immune to all forms of telepathy and magic. Now, the person that you see sitting there with a little sliver of white hair looking like they came straight out of 1994, that's Maggot. Now, Maggot originally appeared in Uncanny X-Men issue number 345 in 1997, and they probably have the most disgusting power out of any member of the mutant community in Marvel Comics, which is to say, Maggot does not actually consume food or energy himself. Instead, Maggot has these two giant maggot slug things named Eenie and Meenie that come out of him and consume matter. But they can consume any and all matter, which, if my memory serves me, also includes adamantium. And of course, all that energy is fed back into Maggot himself, which grants him enhanced strength, durability, and telepathic resistance. Now, the woman that most people have no idea who she is, and I actually had to dig through the old comics in order to remember, because I thought I knew, but I wanted to be sure that I was right. The woman in green, that's Stacy X. Now, she originally appeared in Uncanny X-Men number 399 back in 2001.
Never heard of
and
her.
she basically emits pheromones that can influence the biological processes of people. Originally, it had to be skin-to-skin contact, but over the years, it's changed to where she can literally just kind of emit pheromones out there without actually touching people.
Kind of like what Poison Ivy does in the DC universe, in DC Comics. Because Poison Ivy can release her like plant toxins and stuff, and pheromones.
But if it's a biological process that your body undergoes, she can make you go it. Nothing about that sentence sounded correct. She can make you orgasm, vomit, the whole 9 yards.
Gross.
It's really kind of cool, if I'm being honest with you guys. But continuing on here, of course, we have a classic, and I chose this guy just because, again, people who are new to the idea of the X-Men mythos may not know who this is.
That's Bishop.
We have Bishop, who is arguably one of my top 5 favorite mutants in the entirety of Marvel
Bishop is kind of
Comics.
cool.
Bishop appeared in Uncanny X-Men issue number 282 in 1991. And this guy can absorb any and all forms of energy and then reuse that energy in virtually any way that he can imagine. 9 times out of 10, this guy just fires it back at you. That's what he did in the original X-Men the Animated Series show. He can make himself temporarily invulnerable. He can heal himself, but there is a big caveat. Think of Bishop as a cup. As he absorbs energy, it's like filling the cup up with water. What happens if it overflows? Bishop explodes. He literally blows up. That's basically it now. Now, after this, we go into the Sentinels, and I wanted to include this.
Oh, yeah, the Sentinels. And we saw in the trailer a big, giant hand and gauntlet part that looked like it's part of a Sentinel.
this because I thought it was cool. These are Stephen Lang's Sentinels, no relation to Scott Lang Ant-Man. Sorry to disappoint all you guys who are hoping for a connection to the MCU. We're probably not going to get it. The reason why this matters is because Bolivar Trask originally developed the Sentinel program, but once he was defeated by the X-Men during the federal government's Project Wide Awake, they took the Sentinel plans away from the Trask family, gave it to Stephen Lang, and he gave us the Sentinels that we're the most familiar with from X-Men the Animated Series and this. Now, these next two little tidbits require us to delve
Scott and Jean. Oh, man.
Into a little bit of guessing here, specifically with what looks like Jean Grey. Because if I'm a betting man, that is not Jean Grey.
Really? It sure looks like Jean. And she's got her hand on Scott. Scott and Jean were an item. So much so, Logan wanted to be an item with Jean, and he was always kind of odd man out.
That is Madeline Pryor. Who's Madeline Pryor? In Marvel Comics, when Jean Grey died at the end of the Dark Phoenix saga, we ended up finding out that there was a villain named Mr. Sinister. You guys remember him from the original X-Men the Animated Series TV show. You know how he was like unhealthily obsessed, like creepily obsessed with the idea of like initiating a coupling between Jean Grey and Cyclops and the original X-Men the Animated.
Yeah, right. Jean Grey and Scott were they've always been an item that I know of.
Series, that all goes back to his comic book appearances. He came to the realization if they ever had a kid, that kid would be godly powerful. But what he did is he cloned Jean Grey. That clone was Madeline Pryor. They had a child. That child went on to become Cable. Now, this could just be the show basically saying, hey guys, so here's where Cable comes from. And that's how we kind of get that explanation. But there are other instances where a coupling was initiated between the actual Jean Grey and Cyclops that led to the birth of other children. For example, in Days of Future Past, Jean Grey and Cyclops had a daughter named Rachel Summers, who actually became a host for the Phoenix Force. This chick was ridiculously OP. But in the Age of Apocalypse storyline, there wasn't really a coupling between these characters. Instead, Sinister just took the DNA of Cyclops and the DNA of Jean, combined them, and then gave us Nate Grey. This just ridiculous.
This is why I like watching comics explained, because, dude, he just connects all this stuff. The amount of knowledge he has and the amount of ability to research this and all connected is just amazing, because 9 times out of 10, I watch a video of his, and I'm telling you right now, I don't remember half the stuff he comes up with that I know I read at some point in the comics. It's really bad, but really cool that he can point it out.
Omega level powerful mutant who had levels of power that I think outside of this guy that we're going to talk about here in a second in Scarlet Witch still haven't been matched. But that leads us to this last little tidbit here, the last will and testament of Charles Xavier. There is a story arc in Marvel Comics that has that name, and it took place in Uncanny X-Men in the 2013 run by Brian Michael Bendis. This introduced a guy by the name of Matthew Malloy, a character that we just covered. Matthew Malloy was, and as far as we are aware, still is, the most powerful being to ever exist as far as mutants go in the history of Marvel Comics. In fact, in that comic book itself, there's a point where Beast is looking, using Cerebro, he detects this guy's mutant signature, and
Whoa, wait a minute. Beast using Cerebro? I didn't know Beast could do that.
Even after the events of House of M makes the statement, it's the most powerful mutant signature that's ever been detected, meaning this guy is beyond the Scarlet Witch, even when she was able to alter reality on a universal scale. Funnily enough, we cover that story, and you'll find
By the way, the House of M, that's the series that a little bit that WandaVision from the MCU was loosely based off of. Yeah, this stuff is... I gotta do some research on Matthew Malloy now. I didn't even know about him, or don't remember him if I ever did. I don't know. That's just kind of cool. I thought this was kind of nice to kind of see all the different. These are all the mutants that are in that trailer that we didn't even notice. It's kind of cool.
a link to it right here at the end of the video. With that being said, guys, we're going to bring this to...
There you go. That's the part we saw earlier. That was just like so cool looking. That part does look cool. Because that reminds me of the animated series itself. That reminds me of just how much of a force to be reckoned with the X-Men were. Oh, man. Love that series. Yeah, I got to watch. I am definitely going to watch some of that again tonight later on. I got me jonesing after it now. All right. We're going to watch next about a 26-minute video on Midnight's Edge. It's actually a clip where they actually talk about how fans are kind of feeling a way that I am a little bit about this and their apprehension toward the X-Men 97 trailer. And basically this happened like the day after that people were going to Twitter and other places on social media and complaining about that they felt like this maybe is going the wrong direction. And shocker, it's Disney and Marvel, and they don't have much goodwill right now anyway. So we may not watch all this, because I haven't seen all of it, but we'll just watch what we can go along and go from there.
Anyway, guilt always works. Kino Reviews sends in $10, and this gets us to our second topic. We'll get back to the super chats after this and the X-Men talk. But regarding Morph and X-Men, non-binary means queer. This is a far-left political ideology. Queer is designed to abolish the gender binary and dismantle the nuclear family with attacks on capitalism. So yeah, what Kino is referring to here is some of the hubbub that's surrounding the new X-Men trailer, because this dropped yesterday morning, and at first a lot of people got really excited because for the most part, as we were talking about earlier with the Fantastic Four, this is where I'm wary about that. We already have some proof with X-Men. We're going to get into that now. That don't judge a book by its cover, right, Andre?
Yeah, that's about right, because some things can look really, really cool and not be so cool after all.
Revelations.
I can judge it by Rogue's ass, and it's very lacking.
This discussion is going to depress me because I liked that trailer initially.
So did a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people. Literally the day before, they were saying, "Wow, this looks great. Wow, this looks optimistic." And the next day, I literally saw people post, like literally. Like,
well, we've got so much to get into this, right? Like not just the Morph stuff, but
see some. Let me.
Yeah, see, look, there's Morph right there again. And I'm wondering if they're making him look like that, like they're saying, like at the beginning of this, specifically, so they can kind of look be a person of binary sexual identity. I don't know that for a fact, but it just, all this stuff just kind of worries me. I mean, I did, for the most part, there was parts of the trailer when I first saw it that I thought were really cool. Like, especially that one that we saw with Wolverine and Gambit, that just looked awesome. But then there's parts of it, it's like, really? And I'm worried they're going to go that direction.
Address something real quick because I see this super chat. Why don't you just pull that Sonic Stance one up for 10?
Let me see if I can find it. Which one?
It's like just came through.
Oh, here we go. Sonic Stance. You want to read it? Go ahead.
People are already making up their minds about X-Men 97 because Morph isn't straight and Rogue's butt isn't huge like the meme. It's not a meme. Her butt was, she had a nice ass in the show. It wasn't a meme. It was a real thing. She looked like a woman. Can we actually watch the show before judging its quality? Well, if it was an isolated case, I would say sure, but how much benefit of the doubt does Disney deserve at this point?
Zero.
Yeah, I still don't like the way Beast looks. They made him look like he's angry. And that's not the way Beast looked in that series. Like I said, he looked like an intellectual. He looked like, well, you've seen Kelsey Grammer portray Beast in live action. I think Kelsey Grammer really nailed the way Beast looks in the comics and in the animated series, because it's he's not. I mean, yes, you're taken back. Like I said, you're taken back from the way he looked because he's blue and got fangs and things like that, and pointy ears and claws. But then when you get to know him, you go, "Oh, he's just an egghead. He's a geek. He's a scientist. Extremely smart."
Okay.
Well, and I think this conversation will break down the reason why you can't give them the benefit of the doubt.
Well, I mean, we have no choice but to see it when it comes out. I mean,
That's true. That's true. But as we
Storm
get going
looks off
along
too.
here-
Look at her. She has like banana boobs.
Really?
We're talking pedantic, nitpicky stuff. There's bigger problems I
wish
have
they
with
would.
this.
I wish they would have just went straight up with the straight up. No one cares.
And Rogue is wearing the adult Depends. That's
she
what
has-
she's-
All the small stuff aside, the first thing that sticks out to me is that you have basically when you first announced this, you got everybody on board because it was supposed to be picking up where the old show left off, same style of animation. You even announced that all the living cast members were coming back. But there was an asterisk next to that they never even told us about until recently, where we learned that all those original cast members are recast as different characters.
Not all of them.
Except for one, which is Wolverine, just because he's a white guy. Otherwise, they changed him up for diversity.
Seriously?
Okay, so what the fuck?
Oh, he didn't catch it.
I think the guy who played Beast is still playing him. And
Maybe that might be the other one. Yeah,
pretty sure he is. Like, a couple of them are still playing the main characters.
But
a
if
lot
they
of
were
them,
of any kind of different race, then they're not playing that character anymore.
yeah, Jubilee specifically was oh well, we didn't. A Canadian actress playing Jubilee was a product of its time.
What?
Yeah, that's I believe the direct quote.
I'm just curious. Who played? Oh, wait a minute. This is the new cast. Holly Chow to be playing Jubilee. That's what she's supposed to look like. That's not Jubilee. At least not the Jubilee I recognize. Okay, wait a minute. I thought I was looking at the original. No, I want the 1992 series. Okay. This is who played who, the voice actors that played each one of these in the actual animated series. I want to say he's still in the new series. Look and see. Yeah, George Buza is still playing Beast. That's good. Athel J. Dodd played Wolverine. Is this the... Yeah, this is the new series. Ray Chase, who's played Cyclops is still no. That's the new guy. That's the old guy right there. Norm Spencer is the guy who played it originally. Cal Dodd is still playing Wolverine, it looks like. So Wolverine and Beast look like they're still being voiced by the same people. How about Gambit? Nope, Gambit's being voiced by somebody completely different. And that's going to be the new Jubilee. Oh, wait a minute. No, it still lists Chris Potter as well. No, it doesn't. These are the old series, I guess. Maybe? I don't know. This is confusing. What do you expect? I'm a penguin. Okay, well, there you go.
They had to change it, because it's more appropriate than an Asian voice in Asian, which is so stupid. It's just the voice. This should not matter in animation. The best voice should get the role, no matter who.
Exactly. I agree 100% with that. So in other words, they changed the person who originally voiced Jubilee, Alison Court, because she's Canadian, and changed her up with Holly Chow for no other reason than Disney still doing the diversity thing. Are we even going to see this person? No. Not unless we Google it like I just did. Because all you're going to do is you're going to hear her voice. And I agree with what Yellow Flash just said there. It should be the person that has the best voice, and in my opinion, the best experience for the role. If Alison Court is still around and still willing, then why isn't she doing this? Just like they brought back George Buza to play Beast and Cal Dodd, why not bring back, I don't know. Just irritating.
Jubilee Asian?
Yeah, Jubilee's Asian.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but surprise, surprise. There's the guy in Asia here. Asians have different accents. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, because you are our resident Asian on this panel.
And I went off about it last night, so I'm not going to go too deep into it here. But as somebody who's, has been an aspiring voice actor, like, this bothers me because, look, you got to first of all know the politics of how cartoons are made. Second of all, and Paul can back me up on this, it has to go through like the guild and all that kind of stuff to where, you only are allowed so many actors per show, and that's why they have a lot of times the voice actors will do multiple voices on a show, right? For that very reason. It's because of budgetary and other kind of constraints at the time, not because they're trying to like whitewash the cast or anything like that. In fact, you have many cases where it's the opposite, where you'll have a black person voice a white guy several times over. In fact, I think that's what happened here. Is they moved the guy who did another voice over to Bishop because he was black. Like, what is the problem with it? Like, I don't understand this. And this started, I think, with the Simpsons and the stupid Apu thing. And that's where it really rooted. And it's like, where did we get into this world where voice actors couldn't do voice acting? Now, granted, you're not going to have somebody go out there and do some very racist, like, voice unless you're Trey Parker, right? Like, that's just the joke. But in every other case, you're obviously not going to let some actor come out and do some very stereotypical accent. You're going to have them do a more respectable version of it. And I don't remember Jubilee having a stereotypical Asian accent of any kind.
No, she didn't. She sounds like she sounded like a 90s teenager. That was
exactly. I just watched the first 2 episodes tonight of the original animated series, and they were all about Jubilee, and she sounded like a 1990s teenager. She didn't sound Asian at all. Didn't even really sound like Canadian. She sounded like a 1990s American teenager.
And not only that, I didn't even know Jubilee was Asian. So she was never drawn that way.
Anyways,
I just don't
matter.
understand this. It makes no sense to me.
No,
I agree.
There's no problem having an Asian actress doing Jubilee. I mean, who cares?
Yeah, I don't have a
When you
problem
have
with
the
that
original
either.
actress
Had the
right
original
there.
voice actress coming.
Yeah, that's the part I have the problem with what they're talking about now. When you have the original voice actress coming back, is she coming back, I guess? What's her name? Allison Court. I have no idea. IMDb doesn't list it. Okay, here we go. No, Allison Court, according to this, is not coming back. I guess I just don't understand some of this. Why they would do that.
Back. She's still in the show. She's just playing a new character.
I see. Yeah.
There's
That's
no
a bait
reason
and
that
switch to me.
all the characters should be voicing the characters they played in the 90s.
100%. I agree 100% with that. Bring back that way when you're watching the new series, it's bringing back the whole nostalgia, not just the look, but also the sound of it. You got the original voice actors playing the original characters. And then you can always bring in more actors to play new characters or whatever. But that way, if you want to call this show the X-Men 97 series, then you need to keep it the way it was. Why change it? For diversity's sake? Makes no sense.
It's because the feed is that it's nostalgia, right? That's what it's going off of. And by the way, that's become the Disney and Lucasfilm, for that matter, and even Marvel, right? They get you with the nostalgia bait, right? So they say, "Oh,
nostalgia
the
bait, memory berries,
right? Do you remember?" And they push out some reference to, for example, the original trilogy in The Mandalorian, right? Common tactic, right? So X-Men, obviously X-Men 97, one of its big takes is push out stuff that was good in the 90s that you remember from your childhood, except for they've now warped your childhood and made it non-binary.
Yep.
Let me pull up some. I'm going to pull up some comparisons here. Like, I want to show you what they did to Rogue, because Rogue, this is ridiculous, and it's every animated project now. Every animated project does this stuff. They give women the uniboob, where it looks like they just have one boob,
right?
Or they have Goku's pecs.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about. I know what they're talking about.
I would
but we don't need to have that pointed out.
Right? Like,
I'm actually more upset about the way Beast looks than I am about that.
But on that note, let's get into the characters here, because there was a breakdown in, I believe this is Empire.
Notice Cyclops isn't in there. Or
Yeah,
Jean Grey.
Biclops is not in here. Or Jean Grey.
He's going to step down for some reason. I bet probably like He-Man, like they're going to He-Man him out like they did.
Kill him
that.
off.
I don't think they're going to kill him. I think him and Jean Grey are going to go away with Cable. Obviously,
Well, Jean's obviously
Cable,
pregnant.
which isn't how that happened. It was Madeline Pryor that had him in the comics, but I don't know if they're going to explore that or not. Probably not, because the only thing they're focused on is civil rights. They don't want to tell any other stories. Oh, X-Men always have to talk about civil rights now. Every X-Men story has to be about civil rights now. And they're all talentless. None of them can do it right. The stories like this existed back in the day, but they were done by people that actually had talent at writing. These people have no talent. They don't know how to do this in a subtle way that it actually works. And they used to put entertainment first if it had a message. It's the message first now.
It was one of the best.
And you know what's funny is what he just got through saying there. That's actually leads me into this. I want to watch. I'm probably not going to watch any more of this. We'll switch over here now to. I want you to listen to Stan Lee himself, the creator of the X-Men, and what he actually says about what Flash just said there. about the message, about any type of message in it as opposed to the story itself. This is about a 2-minute video. I found this interesting. It's on AMC Plus, and it deals with the Robert Kirkman's Secret History of Comics.
I had already done Spider-Man with the Hulk and Fantastic Four, and my publisher said, give me another book, Stan. We're going strong. Let's do some more. Well, in order to get a new superhero, you have to think of what his or her power is. That's not too hard, but you have to figure out how did they get that power.
I miss Stan Lee. R.I.P. Stan Lee. He did comics right.
And that's a little difficult. I can't have them all be bitten by radioactive spiders. So I had already given them their powers. And then it hit me. What if they're mutants? What if they were born that way? I thought that was brilliant, and I ran into my publisher, and I told him about the characters. And I said, well, make them mutants, and we'll call the book The Mutants. And he said, no, Stan, that's no good, because our readers wouldn't know what a mutant is. And I said, you don't have enough respect for our readers. They will know, or else they'll learn by reading the story. He said, no, I don't like the name The Mutants. So I had to think of something else, because he was the boss. So I thought, after a while, each of them has an extra power.
This is actually where they came from, the name X-Men. How they were actually named this by Stan Lee himself, the creator of the X-Men.
Maybe I'll call them the X-Men. That could sound kind of dramatic.
Look familiar? That's that very first issue that I showed earlier, the 12-cent one.
So I ran back to him, and I said, okay, how about if we call them the X-Men? And he said, oh, that's great. And as I walked out of his office, I thought, if a reader wouldn't know what a mutant is, how will he know what an X-Man is? But I wasn't about to make an issue of it. I had my title, and that's why the leader, I called him Professor Xavier, because it began with an X, and that tied in with the X-Men and so forth.
Yeah, he called them X-Men because they had extra power. And then Charles Xavier came and named after to tie into the X-Men. I love it.
I've always tried to do our stories so that it didn't matter if you were of the white race, the black race, the brown race, or whatever. So social issues,
You catch that? This is why them making X-Men today, be it in live action or this anime series that's coming out on March 20th, doesn't make any sense. It goes completely against what the originator of the original creator of the show, of the comic book, intended. He makes it, says, listen, once again, it says,
I've always tried to do our stories so that it didn't matter if you were of the white race, the black race, the brown race, or whatever.
Didn't matter about race. Didn't matter about what color your skin was, what how you identified sexually, what your political beliefs were. It didn't matter about any of that.
So social issues I try to get in the background or underlaying a plot, but never to the point of letting it interfere with the story or hitting the reader over the head.
You catch that? This is what Flash was talking about in that last video. That's the difference between a good writer and a bad writer. In this case, Stan Lee, an epic writer from all time. I mean, you wouldn't have Spider-Man, you wouldn't have the X-Men, you wouldn't have the Avengers without the man. But he always made it so that the story was first. He just even said that he tried to put social issues in there, which I'm not opposed to doing that. I mean, Star Trek does that all the time. The difference is modern day storytelling wants it to be to where the story itself comes secondary to their ideology and agenda. And that's the part I have a problem with. And it feels like that's the feeling I'm getting when I rewatch the trailer of the new series that's coming out and watching some of these other creators that talked about it, the things that I started picking up and noticing about it makes me feel like once again they're going to go all in on pushing the woke agenda, and the story is going to be secondary, which it will suffer. These writers probably are young, they're diverse, they don't have any background or experience in doing this. Matter of fact, we already know that they don't, because Marvel, Disney, and Marvel, Lucasfilm, they purposely want somebody from the Writers Guild, because the Writers Guild says that you have to be this way, and so does Disney, that has to be somebody that doesn't know the source material. So how in the world can they write a good story in this world? It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. This is insanity. It's clown world all over again. And it just I'm ready for this stuff just to go away. I'm ready to go back to what I loved, what this little geeky penguin loved, as true, good, immersive storytelling, and occasionally maybe have a moral story in the background. I don't care, but it wasn't the overall reason for the story. The story itself was to tell what? A good story, had a good plot, good character development. It had good things about it. That made you feel like it was part of that world. It sucked you in to it, drawed you in, made you want to watch more of it. I watched those couple episodes from the original X-Men animated series before I started the live stream, and I was so tempted to go, I could probably delay the live stream a little bit so I could watch maybe a couple more episodes. I said, no, I got to make penguin thoughts. I've got to do it. I got to share my thoughts. But by golly, I'm going to dive into watching some more later on tonight. Why? Because that stuff is so good that came from Stan Lee. It was so immersive. It was about the story and not about some type of ideological stance. So, to that end, we're talking about the writers. Once again, I thought it'd be good we hear from Chris Gore on Film Thread about this. This episode is, if you haven't noticed, a little bit more content heavy, a little bit watching videos and a little more detailed in it, but I thought this stuff was good to share. This is another 7-minute video where he rants about some of this, about the X-Men 97 writers don't know X-Men. And I always like to hear what Chris has to say about things, because Chris comes from that industry. He's been a geek all his life that I can tell. He's just an all-around cool guy that really seems to know his stuff.
A freaking IKEA chair.
All right, let's talk about this. X-Men 97 trailer is out, and there are rumors that they took the character Morph, which is a changeling character, and made that character non-binary. Here's the deal. And people are trying to say that I saw someone made a list of all the X-Men characters, and this one's bi, this one's queer, this one's pansexual. Everyone was pansexual, and then there were like queer and bi and whatever. The gay community is trying to make all of the characters in the X-Men gay or some form of gay on the so-called gender spectrum. I call BS. Here's why. I loved the X-Men when I was a kid.
Yeah,
I could relate to the X-Men when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
The X-Men is the comic book as originally envisioned by Lee and Kirby, who did like the first 100 issues together.
Yep.
It's about misfits, and it's about prejudice.
It is.
And prejudice comes in many forms.
It does.
Someone can be prejudiced towards you, yes, because of your ethnic background. Also, maybe because you're a runt, or maybe because you have red hair, or maybe because you're different.
Or because I have black feathers. And I slap people with fish. I don't know.
The reason X-Men is such a popular comic book, are such popular characters, is because everyone can relate to the X-Men.
Exactly. And we just got to hearing from Stan Lee, the man himself, saying that he did not make it so that he made his story so that everyone could relate. Everyone could understand them. It wasn't based off of one particular race or another. I think he made them for the human race.
Everyone. Because at some point in your life, all of us have felt like outsiders. We felt like misfits. We felt like we had no friends. And we felt like maybe people didn't like us. But the reason they didn't like us is because they didn't take the time to get to know who we are. That's what the X-Men's about. And the fact that they're trying to make it about racism and homophobia, that's just one. This is why the X-Men is so brilliantly done. And when you lean into it's only for these type of people can identify, everyone at some point, in particular teenage years, which is when I discovered the X-Men. I was a teenager. I read the X-Men, and I remember identifying with Cyclops because I wore glasses. I had glasses when I was like 11 years old, and I was Four Eyes. I was in elementary school, Gore the Horse, because that was the only where I was Chris. These are elementary school. Whenever you name, if you become a parent, the one thing you got to go into your elementary school brain, name your child something, just make sure it's something that can't be teased. But that was me. Okay. I was small. I didn't get to a growth spurt until I was 16. And then I blew up. Puberty hit late for me. So I related to the X-Men. Scott Summers, Cyclops, wore glasses. He had a crush on a girl, Jean Grey, that he couldn't really say anything to. And it was junior high. I remember reading the X-Men. It was just I so related to it.
You know, I think that's why maybe seeing this new trailer and the way they did Beast bothers me so much. Because like what Chris was talking about here, that he used to get made fun of for wearing glasses and stuff. When I was growing up in school, I didn't get the best grades. I was, a high B+ average student. But somehow, some way, I gave the impression that I was intelligent, or that some people thought I was intelligent, and they used to call me the professor. That used to be my nickname. I didn't choose that nickname for me. And some people used it as an excuse to go, oh, you're just the guy I need to talk to about my homework. Or used to use it as an excuse to make fun of me. You were the curve buster? Well, there you go. And see, it wasn't because I was just uber intelligent, but apparently, well, I know what part of it was. I used to also, and I picked up this bad habit from my father. I used to, especially in math class, I loved math and science. Those were my favorite subjects, and I was good in those subjects. Always made straight A's, high marks. I did poor in English and lit and stuff. But nevertheless, I used to always, when I was working on math problems, if I took a break for a little bit to think about something, I put my pencil behind my ear, just like my father used to. I didn't realize until I started getting picked on that I even did that. It was just a quirk that I did. But I guess apparently part of that made me look like I was uber intelligent. And that's how I got the nickname the professor. I even had somebody sign my yearbook in high school, signed it to the professor. I hope you go and get intelligent. And actually, one of the things that I was, you know how like at the end of high school, they always tell you that, what they predict you'll end up doing. the prediction for me was that I was going to go be a professor somewhere. That's what the yearbook staff took away from who I was. Weird. Now, I'm not going to lie. I did end up going into IT training, but I've not been a professor out of college before. I have taught high school before, but it's not the same. But most of my IT career I spent as an IT trainer working in the corporate world, supporting IT technicians and network staff and network admins, and sysadmins, and teaching them technology. I just think it's kind of cool here that Chris is relating to this, and I'll admit that's one of the reasons why I related to the X-Men in the comics, because yes, the story does feel like that you're a misfit. And I can relate to that because there's sometimes I felt like I was a misfit because I was being singled out as being smart, even though I didn't feel like I was smart. All because of a nickname and all because mainly I think it's because I wore a pencil behind my ear. So, anyway, I just thought this was kind of cool that Chris shared that, and I thought I'd share that, something about me as a crazy little penguin. Now, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, penguins don't have ears. Yeah, they're underneath the feathers. Can't see them.
Not gay, but I understand how people of all types who feel different or feel like a misfit can relate to X-Men. That's why I love the X-Men.
Exactly.
That's why I think
I
everyone can relate to the X-Men. And one group trying to make it only for them or trying to graft upon characters something they see about themselves is narcissistic.
It is.
And ludicrous.
And it's not the original vision of the creator.
Alan, what are your thoughts on my rant?
On your rant. Well, let me pull up this tweet I saw yesterday. You should follow this guy. But this guy says,
pal Al?
Yeah, it's my pal Al. He says, as I remember the X-Men, they were 5 white teens with powers just trying to blend into society. Professor X taught them to harness their powers for the greater good. Magneto and the Brotherhood dubbed themselves Homo Superior and felt that mutants should rule over mankind. I mean, that was...
Yeah, see, that right there, it was... it's funny. That discussion I had the other day with somebody about that's the difference between Professor X and Magneto's philosophy of what they wanted to do with mutants. Professor X wanted them to harness the powers for the greater good for all of mankind, humankind and mutant kind. Magneto wanted to use them, actually saw them as being superior than humankind, and wanted to rule over humankind because of it.
That was the X-Men.
Yeah, that's it. But everyone can relate. I had a friend of mine who is non-white who liked to write stories with white characters because he said white characters are kind of like generic people. So
yeah, white.
No, but I didn't mean it as an insult.
I get it. Yeah.
He's just like didn't want to have like a burden of like, oh, I got to make it about race. I'd rather have it not be about race. So I'm going to make, as a non-white person, I'm going to do stories that are about white people because, whatever. Anyways, apparently this is.
By the way, here's the first comic book I ever bought.
Wow.
It was at 7-Eleven.
That's so cool looking too. Look at that. Look at that. That is so cool looking. Jim Lee's art is just amazing. I think that's Jim Lee. That maybe Stan's. I don't know.
I mean, the story of the Hellfire Club was just mind blowing because I never thought comic books could get this surreal, get this really dark. Yeah. And that's if you know this story of the original Hellfire Club, the best story, it just opened my world to what comic books could do and what stories could tell. And then you have John Byrne for crying out loud.
Oh, I love John Byrne, especially his run on Fantastic Four was great.
Well, even Superman, even though he changed.
Yeah, true.
I liked his run on Superman.
That was with the reboot of Man of Steel.
Yeah,
Am I right?
that's
In the
right.
80s. Yeah.
Yeah, because in that one, his father never died. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a different take, which was fine. It was the ultimate Superman at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole point was that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. It was about unity. It's about bringing people together. Getting. It wasn't and that was the whole point of Magneto, was that he felt like he was superior and could just take over. And that, honestly, that's happening today, where you see these marginalized groups just trying to take over. And we see that with the D-Files. It was not to bring equality or
the D-Files are the things we talked about the other day with Film Threat and the Writers Guild. Chris has gone on to produce even more videos and content about that, as he's getting more and more people from Hollywood that are anonymously contacting him.
or diversity. It was just to basically replace one power group with another power group, and just as wrong then as is now.
You know what brings people together? Go back to that for a second. It's the Dune popcorn bucket brings people together.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be a giant worm coming out of that bucket, but it's just stupid looking. Okay. And then the last little bit here I got is actually Music Underground. That Wolverine voice in the new X-Men is not good. I would agree completely, Music Underground. I don't know. I'm really, really apprehensive about the new X-Men series that's coming out. There were some things in the trailer that I thought were cool, but for the most part, I just kept seeing things that were not correct, that were, in my opinion, also woke. Yeah, when he talks to Scott, he used the word bub when he called Cyclops, but the way he kind of said it just didn't sound right. And look at how look how Beast looks. Beast looks like he's mad, like he's angry, like he's gonna rip out your jugular. And that's not the way Beast looked in the comics. It's not the way he looked in the animated series. Yeah, exactly. Everything does seem off. It's not like it's like they're trying to reproduce it, but yet everything's done subpar or just 25% different or something. I don't know. It just seems weird. Welcome to Penguin Thoughts, and I agree completely with what you're talking about here. That it feels like it's, yeah, right. That it's not a remake, but it feels like it's new and wacky, and I get the vibes of this. They're trying to make it for a modern audience. I wouldn't be surprised. In the animated series, when Professor X wasn't around, Cyclops was kind of like the de facto leader. Sometimes Storm would be as well, but I just feel like that it wouldn't surprise me in this show if, now that Professor X is gone in the new series, it wouldn't surprise me at all if it turns out that they make somebody else the leader and Scott's not it. Omega Rebel sent you here? Cool. They should have recontinued the Silver Surfer and Spider-Man Unlimited. Oh, I agree. I like the Spider-Man Unlimited series. But the problem is with Disney, I don't have much hope with the way they're doing things. They have not been hiding the fact at all that they are pushing an agenda, that they are woke. Yeah. Disney does. They're terrible. They're I honestly believe, I hope that somehow, some way, either all of Disney gets taken over by some third party and bought out, and everybody that's currently there gets booted out, or the company just goes down in flames, and we finally stop seeing all this trash that's coming out of their stuff. I feel like they're pushing content for content's sake and pushing it just for their agenda. And this new X-Men animated series, there's parts of the trailer I liked. I mean, when Wolverine was running with his claws out and Gambit jumped on back, that looked cool. But then when they all met together, Storm looked a little off with her mohawk. Then Morph, I didn't even know it was Morph until I watched another video to find out that was actually Morph, and they're making him look non-binary. And then the paper that says about a fashion show at the beginning of the trailer, and also them changing some of the voice actors. If this is about continuing the series, then why aren't they still using the original voice actors from the 97 series? That just doesn't make sense to me. Especially when they're bringing them all back, but then they're recasting some of them, play other characters instead of the original character they played back in 97. Says they're just buying stuff, but they're not fixing nothing. Every Marvel stuff is written by people who don't read the source material. Exactly. They're choosing these writers that don't have any or very little experience, that don't know anything about comic books or the source material, and that more importantly, they believe in their woke ideology, so that they can continue to write and, quote, make it for a modern audience. Yet, their idea of a modern audience is to bring in the sexual identity stuff, the identity politics, the critical race theory stuff into it, instead of doing what Stan Lee said. Matter of fact, that brings me to this little short, last little 3-minute video I want to watch about an interview with Stan Lee. That he talks about how the X-Men in his mind came about and who they're all about. And it's so not what it feels like the new series is going to be. I hope I'm wrong, but track record with Disney has been, yeah, it's going to be bad, and we're just going to have to, in my case, I'll maybe watch a couple episodes and then probably not watch anymore and go back to watching the old one, which I watched the first 2 episodes of the original 1992-97 series tonight, which you can still watch all 5 seasons on Disney Plus. And that stuff is so good. It sucked me in because it's made by Stan Lee. Here we go. Let's watch this. And link to this video and all the other videos and articles I've talked about tonight on this podcast are down in the description of this podcast.
The evolution of the X-Men from what was a second-tier title to probably Marvel's best-known property after Spider-Man at this point. Now, you created the X-Men, and then later on, people like Claremont and Chris Claremont defined them and kind of turned them into like what people know today. Len Wein came up with Wolverine and stuff like that.
Len Wein did that, yeah.
That, to me, I would imagine was kind of a point of pride watching somebody take something that you did and spinning it and creating something a little more popular even.
I loved the X-Men, and I loved the way Kirby did them. You know, the idea, I don't know if you remember the first issue in the Danger Room, that was Jack's idea. And what a great way of beginning a series to show them in the Danger Room. We didn't mean for it to be a second-tier book at all. And it did well the first few issues. In fact, I don't know if I told you the story about the name the X-Men. I wanted to call it the Mutants. Went to my publisher. He said, you cannot call it the Mutants. Nobody knows what a mutant is. Okay, he was the boss. So I realized they had extra power. I was going to call their leader Professor Xavier X. So figured I'll call him the
Music Underground, I'm not sure why YouTube has timed you out. I'm looking at the messages, they're the ones I've been reading. I don't have a problem with what you're saying. Who knows? I'm trying to untime you here. It's not letting me. Which makes me think it's YouTube that did it, not me. It wasn't me that did it. I know that. It's YouTube that timed you out for some reason. Yeah, I don't see anything wrong either. I'm not sure why it yeah, Tracy, I agree with what you're saying there. She's my mod. I don't see what you were saying. I mean, you were just agreeing with everything I was saying, and I don't know why it timed you out. I'm not seeing. I'm looking through all the messages that supposedly were deleted, and I don't see anything. Yeah, there's stuff I was reading. All the stuff I was reading, and showing up on screen even. Yeah, I do use Stream Elements, but Stream Elements is not normally as strict as what YouTube moderation has been. Because YouTube has built-in auto moderation in it, and sometimes just something comes up and it wants to flag it for some reason. And the mere fact that this is what tells me it's not Stream Elements that did this, because I can't untime the message. For whatever reason. I can't get him out of timeout. So what makes me think YouTube did this? Weird. Oh, it says stream elements? Yeah, it does say stream elements. Put him in. Well, I don't understand that. Okay, well, either way, I hope if Music Underground, you're still there, I hope this doesn't run you off. I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe it's a combination of, I've seen this before where I've been streaming, like on Twitch and so forth, that I run Stream Elements bot mainly for like my commands and stuff. And it sometimes wants to jive with Twitch moderation. In this case, it's YouTube moderation. I don't know. Weird. Maybe he got it so that it looks like maybe they were thinking he was like spamming or something, like he was talking too much. I'll have to look at that setting in Stream Elements. Weird. I'll look and see if there isn't something like he's been, since he was like, maybe he was typing so much that they thought he was spamming, but he wasn't. Exactly. Bad bot. Bad bot. Stop it. Wish didn't have to have bots, but unfortunately, we're on the internet. Anyway, let's back up a little bit while we're watching here. And got about 2 minutes left on this interview with Stan Lee.
X-Men. I wanted to call it the Mutants. Went to my publisher. He said, you cannot call it the Mutants. Nobody knows what a mutant is. Okay, he was the boss. So I realized they had extra power. I was going to call their leader Professor Xavier X. So I figured I'll call him the X-Men. So I said that to the publisher. He said, that's fine. And I thought to myself, I'll never understand top-level thinking. If nobody is going to know what a mutant is, how will anybody know what an X-Man is?
Right.
But I had a title, and I wasn't going to muddy the
boat
waters
at that point.
Yeah,
Right.
I loved the series. But after Jack and I did the first few, I don't remember how many, 4, 5, 10, I don't know. We both got busy with other things.
Right.
And I had to drop something. And the reason I dropped the X-Men, and Jack went off it, not because we thought it was less of a strip, but there were so many characters it took a little longer to write. So I just gave it up because it was the toughest one to do of all of them. And then other people took it over. In the beginning, the sales dropped when we left the book. But then, as you said, when Chris Claremont and John Byrne and all the people who took it on later took it over, because basically it was a solid strip. Sales started to really rise.
It did.
So you are the father of mutants in the Marvel universe. I mean,
and that was done out of laziness.
I love this part. This is how his mind works and how he created the X-Men. I think this is cool because he was lazy.
Again, as I mentioned, when you do superheroes, you have to say how they get their power. Well, I was bored with cosmic rays and gamma rays and radioactivity, and I was running out of things. And I figured, what if they're just mutants? I don't have to explain anything. We know there are mutants in the world. There are mutant vegetables, mutant trees, frogs. Okay, they're born mutants. That gets me off the hook. I can then do whatever I want. So it was done, really. It was a cop-out.
It's so fun. And it gives
Isn't
birth
that
to
cool?
years of continuity and legend and mythos. And
But look
it
how
just
easy
comes from
it
a guy
is.
who's just like, I don't know, the guy got red coming out of his eyes. Who knows?
That's right, but look how easy it is. You want somebody who can walk through walls? He was born that way. He's a mutant.
Nice.
Didn't have to explain it either. So, anyway, I thought that was kind of good that, and I know we spent most of the time talking about the X-Men and the 97 series, but I'll be honest with you, it's one of my all-time favorite shows because it was also based off the comic books I read growing up. Now, granted, I was more into Spider-Man than I was anything else, but I read X-Men comics as well. And sometimes the Hulk and other things like that, Iron Man. But the cool thing here is we actually got to hear how the series was actually came about. And I don't know if this new series that Disney's is doing is going to hold true to the original vision. I mean, look, have they held true to George Lucas's original vision for Star Wars? No, they haven't. They've done what they wanted to do, especially in the sequel trilogy. They pushed their own little politics and stuff. It's not a good story. So it's amazing to me. You would think that they wanted something to be successful, to make money as a company, as an intellectual property that they own. They own Marvel. Why would they not want to follow the recipe from the original creator that made this an extremely profitable endeavor? The first issue we read earlier tonight has sold over 8 million copies. That's insane for a comic book. The X-Men 97 series obviously did very, very well in the 90s. Why else would Disney and Marvel want to resurrect it? I think they want to resurrect it like they've done with every other property that they own, so they can destroy it and invoke their woke identity and politics into it, which is sad because it takes away from a very good storyline, a very good opportunity they have to continue a really good legacy with the X-Men. Anyway, I'm the crazy little penguin, and I'm going to stop yammering on, and I'm going to get off of here so I can head into Second Life for a little bit. I may grab something to eat real quick, And then afterwards, I'm going to watch me some X-Men 97 animated series on Disney Plus. I hate the fact that it's on Disney Plus, but at the same time, I love the fact that I can watch all 5 seasons uninterrupted. Unless, of course, Disney, which I think would be really stupid for them to do, decide to take it off their streaming service. That would be stupid. Considering they're making a new series off of it, that's a good way to get people reinvested in the old series, which is so good. Anyway, I'm the crazy little penguin. And no, I've not been replaced with Morph dressed as a penguin. It's really me, Penguin. I'm the crazy little penguin named Whataboutbob, and I am out of here because, I got to go chase down the X-plane because Wolverine took it back out and he jumped out of it at the last second. So it's flying off by itself. And I'm not a flying penguin, but I'm going to find a way to go catch it so I can bring it back. Anyway, next time, later, peeps.